Italy was the very last major country in HOI4 to receive a significant update. Its focus tree went from 51 focuses to a whopping 314. And I'll have to say, the new tree is very complex. The political focuses are split into multiple different sub-branches, which you can mix and match to your liking. And the number of unique combinations starts adding up fast. When you take into account the infamous Italian civil war mechanic, which essentially lets you reset your focus tree, the number of ways you can play this country grows into the hundreds. So instead of going over every single possible combination of choices you can make, I'll try to showcase everything this focus tree has to offer in about a dozen unique and interesting scenarios. And just like before, this video focuses on vanilla HOI4, but I also used this mod to enhance the visuals a bit. I also had every single DLC up to Peace in Our Time active, but By Blood alone is the one that updates Italy. And that's it for the intro, but before we start, I'd like to quickly thank every single one of you who has liked, commented, subscribed, donated, or even just watched my videos. All that helps the channel grow, which enables me to make more videos like this, so a huge thank you to every single one of you. Okay, let's begin. The Kingdom of Italy joined World War I in 1915 on the side of the Entente. Even though Italy technically had a defensive alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary, they were not obliged to join into a war the Austrians had started. The Central Powers offered some territorial gains to Italy for their allegiance, but so did the Entente, and their offer was better. And so, the old allies became enemies. 3 years of fighting later, the war was over. However, the Italians would soon find out that the Entente had basically scammed them and given much of what they promised to Italy to the new Kingdom of Yugoslavia. This mutilated victory, along with the fear of communism and the overall instability in the country, led to the rise of the new fascist party and its leader, Benito Mussolini. In 1922, Mussolini with tens of thousands of black shirts marched on Rome as a show of power. And the king, Victor Emmanuel III, basically sided with Mussolini and appointed him prime minister. From there, Mussolini increased his and his party's power until they were fully in control. Mussolini became a dictator, the Duce of Italy. Compared to all the other great powers, Italy is exceptionally weak. Our factory count is tiny, and unlike Germany, we don't get any huge industrial buffs from our focus tree. We'll just have to get our hands dirty and build everything from the ground up. We're also right in the middle of a war with Ethiopia, our second one at that. Yeah, I don't know how Italy managed to lose the first Italo-Ethiopian war, but that sure as hell ain't happening again. There we go. But our military campaigns aren't over yet. We send a few volunteer divisions straight from Africa to Spain to fight in their civil war. We must support the nationalists, as they could become a useful ally, and we definitely need some of those in our current situation. Initially, we tried to maintain at least somewhat good relations with those scammers France and Britain, because we all saw emerging Germany as a threat to Europe. But apparently, our special military operation in Ethiopia was unacceptable to the Allies, so they don't want anything to do with us anymore. So when Germany annexes Austria in 1938 and the Allies don't do anything about it, there is basically no hope in trying to stop the rise of Germany. Perhaps instead of opposing Germany, maybe we should just join them. We both share similar ideologies and a common dislike for the Allies, so I'm sure that we'd get along well. Allying them could also be our road to obtaining our irredentist claims. Speaking of which, Mussolini dreams of expanding Italy and making it the primary power in the Mediterranean, just like the Roman Empire. However, to achieve this, we'd have to clash with France and Britain. At this point, it's pretty obvious that Germany too is on the road to war with the Allies. So in early 1939, we signed the Pact of Steel and joined the Axis. Before the war starts, we can quickly do a little Anschluss of our own and send an ultimatum to Albania. And they submit to us. Nice. I'm sure the war will go just as smoothly. But what's this? Germany signed a pact with the Soviet Union? What? Not sure how I really feel about this, But there is nothing we can do about it, especially now as World War II has begun. I guess we should join in, but I don't know, man. I wouldn't want to lose a major war like this. I guess we could first observe how the Germans do in the war and then join in at a more opportune time. Okay, they're doing pretty good. We're in. So, France fell, but due to our indecisiveness, we got basically nothing out of them and Germany just made them into a puppet. Not a great start. Our war continues in North and East Africa, where we border British colonies. We also clash with the British Navy in the Mediterranean. While our navy is pretty sizable, it can't rival the Royal Navy, so our control of the sea is pretty limited. Damn, fighting in Africa sucks hard. We can't really advance in the north, and we're basically losing in the east. We really need a win right now. An invasion into Greece could provide a quick and easy victory, which would also play right into the idea of restoring the Roman Empire. Yeah, let's do that. Damn, I didn't know Greece could throw hands like this. Come on, could you just please surrender before British troops get here? Oh god. Hey Germany, Bulgaria, could you lend a hand please? Thanks guys. Man, are we really this bad? Even though things haven't really gone to plan, if we just managed to land an invasion into Great Britain, we could come out on top. Or we could go to war with the Soviets instead. Okay, Germany, really? Well, at least it looks like that the Red Army is even worse than our military, so maybe we can take out the Soviets relatively fast. What? Did we really need to bring America into this too? I think the war might be over. As more and more Americans arrive in Africa, we get kicked out of the continent entirely. And not long after, the first Allied troops land in Sicily. Mussolini has brought this country to ruin. You know what? Get the hell out of here. We're switching sides. The country fractures into a civil war. In the north, Mussolini serves as a German puppet, but we, the Kingdom of the South, fight alongside the Allies. As a British subject though, but you can't really blame them. Now we get the option to choose our ideology from non-aligned, democratic, or even communist. Our choice determines which focus path we gain access to, so let's go with democracy. Damn you, Germany, you ruined everything, but look at who's on the winning side now. A few years later, Berlin finally falls. The war is over. So, I guess we did end up winning after all. Well, not really. We lost all our colonies and some land to Yugoslavia, but at least we didn't end up like Germany, so it's not all bad. Perhaps it's time to accept our status as a middle power. We gain full independence from the Allies and become a proud member of NATO in the fight against communism. There is a lot of rebuilding ahead, and unifying the fractured country will take time, but I'm sure that one day we can prosper as a peaceful and stable republic. And yes, I did say republic. Sorry bud, you got voted out. Appointing Mussolini was kinda a big blunder. Now here's a wild scenario. What if Mussolini was actually competent? Yeah, I know it's a bit out there, but stay with me here. Even after conquering Ethiopia, we'd normally continue to face heavy resistance in the region because their emperor flees to lead a government in exile in Britain. The country could be better pacified if we capitulate them before the emperor gets the chance to leave. We will send literally our entire army to take over the country as fast as possible. Yeah, this will escalate the conflict, but who's gonna be doing anything about it? The Allies? Yeah, I thought so. There we go. Ethiopia is fully ours. Next, we can escalate tensions even further because we have the option to demand concessions from Yugoslavia. We can pretty easily force them to give us Dalmatia and Montenegro. And actually, we can just subjugate the entire country. And Albania too. And just like that, Mussolini has corrected the mutilated victory. But we're not done yet. We still have a score to settle with the Allies. In September 1939, Germany starts World War II, and we immediately join in. We have prepared a lightning-fast campaign to take over the entirety of the Mediterranean. We defend the Alpine front, but take Corsica from France. Then we head east and west from our Libyan colony. The French defense in North Africa is laughable, and before the year is even over, we have already reached the Atlantic. The British forces in Egypt aren't that much better, and soon we have taken the Suez Canal and everything up to Turkey. We continue down south until we connect with our East African colonies. All this we have achieved, while Germany was just chilling. But as they finally launch an invasion into France, we begin pushing from the south, and just like that, France surrenders. This time we actually get what we want in the region, but it's not over yet. Next, we expand into Greece, and conquering them takes us a whopping week and a half. I mean, what did you expect? Then we request the Balearic Islands from Spain as compensation for our help in their civil war. They wisely accept, so we can use the islands to launch a naval invasion into Gibraltar. Taking this strategic base means that we now control both exits from the Mediterranean. As a result, a large part of the British Navy is now just stuck here, under our mercy. We bombed their fleets to the bottom of the sea, which lets us prepare naval invasions into Malta and Cyprus. And just like that, the Allies have been completely expelled from the Mediterranean. Our troops are advancing into Congo, and half of the British Navy has been sunk. The war is basically over, but before we finish it, Mussolini wants to make sure that he alone would be the one in charge of the new Italy. He was already more popular than anyone could have ever imagined, so to him it didn't make any sense that his place was still technically below the king. Mussolini decides to end the Italian monarchy and take his place as the supreme leader of the Italian Social Republic. Now, the last phase of the war, invasion of Great Britain. It seems to be the only place the Allies actually defend well, but it doesn't matter. The United Kingdom falls all the same. The Germans might have started this war, but we were the ones to end it. In just a few years, Germany and Italy went from the outcasts of Europe to globe-spanning empires. Our nation has grown to a size beyond our wildest dreams, so it's only appropriate that we will henceforth be known as Greater Italy. But it looks like Germany is not happy yet, as they have declared war on the Soviet Union. We'll help them out. Communism has no place on this continent. The USSR never stood a chance. Operation Barbarossa was finished in just a year. Now we just have to take on the United States. They didn't last much longer. The Tripartite Pact of Greater Germany, the Empire of Great Japan, and Greater Italy have carved the entire world between themselves. Three peoples, three fascist superpowers now rule the earth. But as one might expect, the alliance between three ultranationalist regimes breaks down fast. However, none of them would dare to start a war, because that would basically mean the end of the world. So, the three nations would have to learn to coexist. And come on, it's not like they don't all have enough land. Despite the fact that Mussolini has been a pretty popular leader for more than a decade now, that can all be undone if it takes him a bit too long to conquer Ethiopia. Apparently, that's enough to make everyone lose confidence in him, so the Grand Council of Fascism convenes and decides to oust Mussolini. But the country can't be led by a council, it needs a single strong leader, and who would be more suitable for the position than Italo Balbo, a popular aviation hero and the governor of Libya. Balbo has been a key figure in the fascist party from the very beginning, so his style of leadership is very similar to Mussolini's, but with increased focus on developing Libya and expanding the Italian Air Force. Of course. Okay, we have a new guy in charge, but we can't just let the old one and all his friends stick around. We must purge the party from Mussolini's supporters. When it comes to Mussolini himself, we can either imprison him, execute him, or assassinate him. It doesn't really matter which you choose, like at all, so we'll just execute him. now that our new regime is secure, we could also make a few changes to our foreign policy, specifically in regards to the Balkans. Instead of forcibly dominating the region, it could be more advantageous to build new alliances there. Speaking of alliances, there is no way we could ever realize our full potential in the shadow of Germany. So instead of aligning with them, we'll create our own faction, the Italian League. And Bulgaria joins right away. Great to have a fellow green country. Next, we'll make sure to take Austria under our wing. That's right, Germany, no Anschluss for you. Okay, let's start campaigns to boost fascism in the Balkans. After a while, we can pressure their governments to make way for new fascist administrations. Let's send an ultimatum to Yugoslavia. Nice, they became fascists. But wait, they joined the Axis? Damn. How about Greece? Okay, they also became fascist and then immediately joined the Axis. How about you, Romania? So they also adopted fascism, but they decided to remain neutral. Sure, whatever. Then why did you just join the Axis? So it turns out no one in the Balkans wants to join our faction because we're still at war with the Ethiopian government in exile. Oh boy. So this is one of those paths where nothing works out. You know what? Let's travel back in time a bit and make sure that we capitulate Ethiopia before their emperor flees the country. We can still oust Mussolini even if he succeeds in Ethiopia. Okay, let's now get back to the future and see if anything has changed. And yes, it worked. Everyone in the Balkans joined the Italian League. Great. We can even get Turkey on our side if we sell them the Dodecanese Islands. I'd say it's a worthwhile exchange. Sorry, Greece. And look at that. Our faction is now the largest in Europe. And we all want the same thing. War with the Allies. Well, I don't know if these guys want it, but I want it, and they're joining in. So, we traded tons of industrial and military focuses for a regime change and new allies. So how does it affect our performance in the war? Well, Turkey is really helpful in the Middle East, and the extra divisions are always nice, so we're doing pretty well all things considered. This time, we won't waste too much resources fighting in the colonies. We'll strike right at the hearts of our enemies. We push into France with everything we've got, before the Germans start advancing from the north. We managed to reach Paris first, and most of the country capitulates to us. Then suddenly, Austria annexes Hungary and then starts justifying a war goal on Germany? Even though we're not allied with Germany, this doesn't mean that we want a war with them. So we glaze Germany a bit until they sign a non-aggression pact with us. And Austria, calm the hell down. It is thanks to us you even exist right now. Now that France is gone, we can invite Spain and Portugal to our faction. Spain especially would be great to have, since we could march straight into Gibraltar from their territory. But apparently, they're too weak from the Civil War to ever join World War II. Come on, dude. But wait a second. Looks like Romania staged a landing into Gibraltar. Okay, damn. I guess having allies is better after all. Now the majority of the British Navy is stuck again, and we can easily cross the English Channel. With armies from about 10 different countries, we can mow down their hordes of troops. Eventually, the United Kingdom surrenders. The British and French empires were split pretty evenly among everyone. Now everybody has their own colonial empire. We also control the entirety of the Mediterranean. Hey, do you know what this reminds me of? This is basically the Roman Empire reborn. That's right, the Italian League is now the Imperium Romanum. Yeah, it's just a rebrand. So, this is the new Roman Empire. It's a bit on the more decentralized side, but you know, that's good enough for me. And all our faction members get along perfectly well. So the Germans can fight the Soviets and the Japanese can fight the Americans, but we are done with war. We have a strong defensive pact protecting us from foreign invasions and a non-aggression pact with Germany. So, this might just be the beginning of a new Pax Romanum. At least for us. Okay, Mussolini is out. Who should take his place? How about our greatest diplomat, Dino Grandi? Yeah, he sounds good. He too has a lot in common with Mussolini, but he intends to focus more on promoting meritocracy and expanding corporatism. Even though Grandi is a devout fascist, he is way more aligned with the Western powers than Germany. In fact, he doesn't agree with Germany on much of anything and thinks that they are the greatest threat to the Italian nation. We should take any chance we can to weaken Germany. So when Austria comes asking for guarantees for their independence, we will take them under our protection. But it's unlikely that we could take on Germany all alone, so we'll increase cooperation with the UK until we manage to secure a non-aggression pact. But that's not enough, we need a formal alliance with them. But before we can do that, we have to negotiate over any territorial disputes we have in Africa. For their alliance, we must be willing to do that. After a few weeks, the negotiations are over, and France and Britain decide to just give us tons of stuff for free. I mean, that works for us. With some great luck, we received new territories in North and East Africa, the islands of Malta, and for some reason, even recognitions for our claims in the Balkans. Wow, you guys really gonna throw them under the bus like that? By the way, it's a good thing that we managed to capitulate Ethiopia before the emperor could flee, because if we hadn't done that, we'd have to relinquish about half of Ethiopia, and the only thing the Allies would give us in return is guarantees on Austria. I have no idea why the focus works like this, but you already know by now that you shouldn't let Ethiopia survive. So, now we can finally ratify the Stresa Front, and we join the Allies. Perfect. Now what should we do with Mussolini? You know, since we're a bit more diplomatic and peaceful now, we could just let him go. Be free. And the purge? We'll just not purge anyone. Yeah, there is basically no reason to kill anyone. We get almost nothing out of it. So we'll just let everyone live. Now while we're waiting for the opportunity to jump on Germany, we could subjugate Yugoslavia and Albania. I mean, we're still fascist and our allies did give their blessings to take these lands, so there is nothing they can complain about. Okay, Germany wants to annex Austria. Sorry, but it ain't happening, so it looks like it's war. Their military is still pretty strong, but not as strong as the three of us combined. We can slowly encircle more and more of their troops until we can begin advancing deep into their territory. Looks like your gamble backfired pretty badly. Hey France and Britain, now that Germany is basically a wreck, we'll take a quick detour and invade all of the Balkans too. I mean, you did give us your blessing. And there we go, Germany surrenders. Now, how should we carve up their territory? Actually, you don't have to worry about that. We had built a collaboration government in Germany before the war even began, so our puppet will be taking everything. Now that we have a whole another great power as a subject, it's only fair that we upgrade our title a bit. We're now the Italian Empire. France and Britain, you have nothing to worry about. You didn't create a bigger monster just to fight Germany, because we actually have the same enemy. We dislike communism just as much as you do. Actually, we dislike it way more, so we'll invade the Soviet Union now. And as we're still in the Allies, you can join in too. Let's go! Okay, that took a lot longer than defeating Germany. So how should we divide up Russia? Well actually, we built a collab government in here too, so we'll just take everything. You're welcome. With the power of friendship, we brought down both Germany and the Soviet Union. Now we can finally rest easy, knowing that we won't have to fight any more wars. UK, why did you kick us out of the Allies? You don't like rampant expansionism? Well, look at this cool bomb we just built. Do you want a taste? Nah, I'm just kidding. We'd never bomb you to smithereens. But we will still support the expansion of fascism across the world. Okay, bye. The Cold War began, named after the way Great Britain treats its old ally. But at least there would be no actual fighting between the great powers. Only in the areas of science, culture, sports, and you know how it goes. It's the Cold War but with fascism. Okay, I'm gonna say it. Fascism, bad. And even the Grand Council of Fascism agrees, because after they oust Mussolini, they decide to give all his powers to the king, the true leader of the nation. He will no doubt be a much more competent strongman who will lead us to glory. Except, did he just sign a new constitution and allow free elections? And we're now being led by the Christian Democrats. Oops. That's right, it's time for democracy. But hear me out. This is actually an interesting way to play Italy, because what we're going to do is not join the war on either side. Yeah, we're doing nothing. Well, not really, but we have no reason to rush into war. Most of the time, Italy is still really weak in 1939, especially when you have to spend a lot of valuable time changing your regime. But now we have plenty of time. We can build up our industry and military without any disturbance. We'll also try to pacify Ethiopia the way we're meant to, by clamping down on resistance and building up compliance. By 1941, we're a pocket of stability and freedom in Axis-controlled Europe. The Allies are also doing slightly better because they don't have to worry about Africa. On the other hand, I'm not sure if Germany is doing better or worse now that they don't have Mussolini on their side. Well, whatever the case, they still start Operation Barbarossa right on time. It's a bit weird that Germany doesn't seem to care that they have an Allied aligned great power right to their south, just cranking out division after division. They really should do something about it, because we aren't intending to stay neutral much longer. Joining the war could be a great way to get those East Adriatic states we were promised in the Great War. We just have to wait until we fully control Ethiopia, which takes us all the way until late 1941. Jesus! I'm sure you could do it faster, but this is why you should basically always rush the Ethiopian war. Like damn. So, now that the Ethiopian government in exile ceases to exist, we can join the Allies and enter World War II. Germany didn't even have any troops on our border, so we can easily push into Austria. Pretty quickly though, we meet some resistance and our advance slows down. But we did finally get our hands on Dalmatia after all these years. You know what? That's good enough for me to form the United Italian Empire. Now the conservatives have themselves an emperor and the liberals have democracy. Everyone is happy. Soon enough, the German defense begins to falter and their enemies start closing in from 3 directions. The war comes to an end in 1943. Joining the war was one of the best decisions we've ever made. We got land from both our enemies and allies, occupation zones in multiple countries, and even some extra colonies from France and Britain. And all we had to do was to fight for about a year. The Italian Empire is now one of the strongest countries in the Western Bloc. Although we share a common enemy, some in our faction are not exactly happy about how we expanded our territories. Well, sucks for them. We, on the other hand, have everything we ever wanted: peace, stability, and an empire. I'm sure things will work out just great for us. Okay, what if the king didn't re-establish free elections and kept all the power to himself? If we just gather 50% support to his cause, the king can become an absolute monarch. Now that we have the right guy in charge, we can fix this country by strengthening the role of Christianity in our society. The king will work closely with the Catholic Church, drafting new treaties, and he just gave all his power to the Pope. Why do I have a feeling that this guy doesn't want to be in charge? Okay, so we're no longer the Kingdom of Italy. We are now the Papal States. That's a comeback I'm sure no one was expecting. So just overnight, the Pope's domain increased in size by about 7 million times. This massive change was so shocking to the Pope that he immediately died. But the new Pope is ready to take charge of his new empire. There is one thing he wants more than anything else: to see Catholicism brought back to its former glory. The Pope evidently went a bit mad after gaining so much power. In his view, being a part of the wrong denomination, or even worse, being atheist, is enough justification for war. But before we start fighting anyone, we as good Christians should first use diplomacy. As always, Yugoslavia and Albania submit to us, but we can also get the Holy Land from Britain, and the Catholic strongholds of Spain and Portugal also agree to become our subjects. Not a bad start. But now, it's time for war. Basically all of the Balkans are occupied by Orthodox or Muslims. They shall all be brought back to the true church. And there. This is looking kinda familiar. Next, we'll declare war on the Anglican Brits, and it looks like France has decided to side with them over their Catholic brethren. Well, whatever. we can bring them back into line with simultaneous attacks from Spain and the Alps. Now we just need to invade Britain. Once again, most of their navy is stuck in the Mediterranean, so it's not very difficult to stage landings into England. Not long after, the war is over. We had to share some of the spoils of the war with Germany, but we can just take it all back later. What's important right now is that we got all of the Mediterranean for ourselves. This is looking really familiar. What if we just quickly annex Yugoslavia and the Iberian countries? Are you thinking what I'm thinking? We are now the Roman Empire. Or the Roman Kingdom apparently. Well, that's kinda dumb. But look at us, the Roman Empire in the year of the Lord, 1941, led by the Pope. Doesn't that technically make us Holy Roman Empire? Oh wait. By this point, we're basically unstoppable. We have cores on all of the Mediterranean coast and tons of decisions to core basically everything the Roman Empire controlled at its peak. But we're not done yet. It's time for the final crusade. Germany lasts about a month. The Soviets, 3 months. Japan and China were next. And finally, the United States also falls. Now we are all Roman. The whole world has been united under the imperial eagle, the Pope, and God. Wait, so if we're the Kingdom of Rome, does that mean that the Pope is now a king? What if he dies and he has 2 sons? Oh no. Up to this point, we have only dabbled in the right wing of politics, so let's take a look at what the left has to offer. If we struggle in Ethiopia really badly, everyone loses all trust in the entire fascist system. As a result, the socialists and communists think that they finally have enough support to overthrow Mussolini, so they start preparations for a civil war. We can secure support for the revolution either in the north or the south of the country. Let's focus on the north, because that's where all the industry is. Okay, we're finally ready to defy the Duce. For free Italy. We proclaim the Italian Republic and now fight alongside the Ethiopians against the fascist regime. Weirdly enough, the king decided to join the literal socialist/communist revolution over staying with the right-wing nationalists. I don't know what he was thinking, because we of course immediately depose him. Beating the fascists doesn't take long at all, because someone converted all of their divisions into artillery only before the war began. So in just a few months, the revolutionaries take over the entire country. But now the question is, who will take charge? The moderate socialists or the radical communists? Well, this time, the socialists come on top, and Italy remains a democratic republic. But we can still work hand in hand with the communists. And believe me, we will, because their advisors are so much better. Now that our civil war is over, we should help the other Southern European Socialist Republic with their civil war. We could gain a potential ally from Spain. With the right focuses and advisors, we can send them at least 9 volunteer divisions. This will easily turn the tide of the war, but even with this many volunteers, it's not really smooth sailing, because the Spanish Republicans are complete and total idiots who seem to be hell-bent on losing. But eventually, we crush the fascist uprising, and the Second Republic can begin recovering from the whole ordeal. Success! Many in our government wish to mend the injustice the previous regime caused on the Ethiopians. Luckily, there is a simple answer to the Ethiopian question. We can offer them a chance to become our puppet. And they gladly accept. Why they decide to do that, I don't know. But I guess they think they'll be safe from foreign invaders if they're under our protection. Sure. But what about the rest of our colonies? Wouldn't it be a bit hypocritical to just keep them now? Well, France is also led by socialists, and I don't see them abolishing their colonies. So we'll just make a slight administrative change and turn our colonies into puppets. Or only Libya, I guess. I guess now's a good time to say that half of the stuff in this Republican focus tree either doesn't work or just doesn't make any sense, but we'll try to work around it. During the Civil War, the Mafia gained significantly more power. We could either crush them or cooperate with them for some industrial buffs. Let's do the latter. Now we can also utilize the Mafia's connections abroad to do something. I don't know what, because this focus does literally nothing. Is the mafia just scamming us? So, our former allies have entered a war against Germany. I guess we could help them out. We join the allies and invade Germany from the south. Now we can also unlock our 6th research slot, which is a big plus for the revolutionary tree. Germany doesn't really stand a chance against the three of us, and with a few naval invasions in the north, the war is quickly won. Now for some reason, the socialist side of the balance of power meter gives us a 90% discount on puppeting countries, so we could just puppet literally everyone in the Axis. But that would be unbecoming of a respectable ally, so we'll just split up Germany and turn everyone else into democracies. And there, it's 1940 and there are no more fascists in Europe. Now we can also get a war goal on the Soviet Union with the focus called The Enemies of Capitalism. But I thought we were supposed to be socialist? Whatever. Soviet communism does represent a great threat to Europe, so why not put an end to it before they get any stronger? And there, all the European countries are friends now. How nice. Now we can all work together to build a more peaceful, more unified Europe to the benefit of us all. By the way, Spain didn't do anything this whole time, but I don't know what I was expecting. Okay, let's do basically the same thing again, but this time we'll try to unite Europe even faster. So, we fight the civil war and help the Spanish Republicans, but this time we also guarantee Austria's independence. Then we found the Free States of Europe in hopes to unite every democracy on the continent against Germany. We can immediately invite Spain, France and even Switzerland into our faction. But besides them, basically no one wants to join us. Everyone else is either dead set on being neutral or they would rather be part of the Allies. Like, why isn't our faction good enough? Well, it's 1938 and despite our guarantees, Austria still submits to Germany. But it's not up to them. We get a liberation war goal on Germany and now it's them against the four of us. And once again, Germany is too weak to break our defenses, so it's only a matter of time until we can start pushing back. Oh hell no! A civil war just ignited in France. Is it the requirement to have a civil war in order to be in this faction? Well, luckily we had the foresight to position some troops on exactly these positions, so we can enter rebellion before it really even begins. Then Germany brings Czechoslovakia into the war and they get absolutely cooked. The Germans, I mean. And the war is over. This time we just puppet everyone, because why not? There is basically nothing else to do with this path. I have a slight hunch that the devs were starting to run out of time when making these focus paths. Well, maybe the communist ones are better. So, the Ethiopian campaign fails, and we're preparing to oust the fascists from power. This time we'll focus on the south, because that's where all the food is. There is one more thing we must do before starting the civil war. We can free Antonio Gramsci, the country's most prominent communist, from prison. He would make for a great leader for the new republic. By the way, you can still free him after the civil war is over, even though it says you can't, but we'll play along and free him now. And away we go. Damn, it's way better to start in the south. Great, we're now the Italian Union, and the first thing we'll do is join the Comintern, because why else should we go communist? Then we'll rush this focus at the very bottom of the path, for the sole reason that it replaces our green color with something more fitting. We also had to choose a new leader, and of course we'll pick Gramsci. Right now he's a bit weak, but in about 2 years he will recover from his illness and become one of the best rulers a country can have. Now we must yet again ask the Ethiopian question. Since us communists aren't really big fans of colonialism, we'll just enact mutual guarantees with Ethiopia and leave them be. After that, we begin the process to abolish our colonies entirely. In a year's time, our colonies will vote whether they'd like to become independent or stay with us and become core states. So, our East African colonies decide to leave, but Libya wants to stay, so we get cores on their territory. Now that we have gone through this whole process, we can condemn colonialism without coming off as hypocrites. Every European country must leave Africa or suffer revolts in their colonies. Unsurprisingly, no one accepts our demands, so now we have 3 war goals on them all. Now that we have condemned imperialism, we can with good consciousness annex Albania, but at least they themselves agree to that. By the way, you can only do this focus if you're communist or non-aligned. What? One of our primary goals as the Socialist Republic of Italy is to spread communism to everywhere in Europe. We could do that by utilizing the dozens of spies this focus path gives us, or we could just use the war goals we got. And since the Allies are already at war with Germany, now's the perfect time to start spreading communism and liberating all the colonies of the world. By force. We capitulate France, Spain and Portugal. Then we launch an invasion into Britain. With the help of Russia and Germany, the Brits don't last long. The Allies are out, but we aren't done yet. We immediately declare war on Germany. Even though our Soviet ally kinda sucks, eventually the Germans run out of steam and they too capitulate. And just like that, the workers of Europe have been liberated and all the victims of colonialism are free. Except Libya, but you know. Europe was split between Italy and the Soviet Union to, ensure a long-lasting peace. Luckily, we got all the strong countries. With the creation of dozens upon dozens of new countries, all of them perfectly happy with their current borders, I'm sure we can all live in peace and harmony for decades to come. It wouldn't be a communist path if it didn't let us choose between joining Comintern and forming our own faction, and then fighting the Soviets. So let's try the other one too. By the way, you can still do the communist revolution even if you successfully conquer Ethiopia. Your starting situation in the civil war will just be atrocious, but at least we get to keep all of Ethiopia, and we need it for something we'll do in the future. Now we create the United Socialist Front, and let me tell you, who needs the Soviet Union when you can have Paraguay and Xinjiang by your side? At least for a short while. We'll also hold off on abolishing our colonies for now. This means that the only war goal we can get is on the Soviet Union, and they're kinda the last country we want to fight right now, because we're like 4 countries away from each other. We could get a war goal on Germany from this focus, but to complete it, we must already be at war. So this means that we must manually justify a war goal on another major country. Unbelievable. Okay, we take out Germany and then we take out the Allies. Now we invade the USSR so that we can replace Stalin with Stalin. We'll also conquer the Iberian countries and all of the Middle East. So now that we control all of Africa, we'll do the focus to abolish our colonies. After a year, either all these countries declare independence, or with perfect luck, they will all choose to remain and will get cores on basically all of Africa and the Middle East, as a communist country, with the decolonization focus. What? Yeah, when I said that these paths don't really make any sense, this is what I meant. So, those were all the main focus paths, but I want to show you 2 more ways to play Italy. Remember when the king gave power to the Christian Democrats? Well, he can also remain the ruler of the country, even when we go democratic. If we do all the same things we did with the Papal path, conquer Eastern Mediterranean, puppet Spain and Portugal, beat the Allies, and then annex everything, we can form the Roman Republic, which is actually a constitutional monarchy with Augustus Victor Emmanuel as its emperor. Kinda dumb, but also pretty cool. Also, if you're an absolute monarchy, you can also get Augustus Umberto, who is a way worse leader, and even Mussolini can take the title of Augustus. Back to the Republic. Now we of course core everything we can, and then we go on a few extra wars and annex all of Europe. Now, since we're a democracy, we can do something pretty crazy. We open the decisions and scroll all the way down. What do we have here? Yeah, it's the European Federation, but this time it's way better because we can core everything up to the Urals. We can also release the useless-ass Bosporan Republic, but we could also not do that, so we won't. So yeah, the Roman Empire plus the European Union. That's basically as strong as a country can get. The next time someone tells you that democratic countries suck, tell them to try this one out. If the Roman European Federation is the strongest Italy can get, this is basically the opposite. Did you know that you can reverse the Italian unification in the game setup options? If you now choose to play as Italy, you will be put in control of the Kingdom of the Two Sicilies. You inherit most of the Italian military as well as their war on Ethiopia. Now with your trusty default focus tree, you can one by one conquer all the other Italian kingdoms, until the Allies start guaranteeing them. But whatever, Italy shall be unified either way. Now, unlike with the German kingdoms, there is no decision to reform Italy as any of the Italian states, so even if you conquer all the others, you will never get any new cores nor a name change. Bummer. Is there a reason anyone should play like this? Not really, I just wanted to show it off. So, that was Italy. I think it has some pretty good focus paths, as long as you don't stray away too much from what you're intended to do, because then everything starts unraveling pretty fast. The communist and socialist paths especially feel pretty unpolished, but you can get one or two fun games out of them. I hope I covered everything interesting about this country. There are of course dozens of different ways you could combine all the sub-branches, but that's something you'll have to try out yourselves. So yeah, I guess that's all. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.